All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another session of Fast Fabulous Engagement Strategies. We're here with you for 20 quick minutes today and giving you at least 6, if not more, strategies that you can use in your classroom tomorrow. So hopefully you can take something back with you, if not multiple ideas, to really help your students stay engaged. To start us off today, we want to let you know that all of these sessions are recorded and put on our YouTube channel. So you can find sessions from last year and even this August when we did some other sessions on our YouTube channel. We've done hybrid strategies, distance learning strategies, and in-person strategies. So hopefully you can find something useful to help you connect with your students and create a classroom community. Today we're going to start off with some whole group Fast and Fabulous engagement strategies. We're going to talk about an intro activity that we'll do here in just a minute. We're going to do a snowball fight, a fishbowl, stop and jot, classroom badges, mindful mimicking, and 4-quarter diamonds. So you're going to have a bunch of ideas to amp up your whole group instruction. And coming later on this month and through October, we will address small group, productive noise, and questioning strategies as well. So hopefully you can join us or our YouTube channel for those sessions coming up later this month. So to kick us off today, we want to start with our definition of what is engagement. This is taken from the Glossary of Ed Reform, and you can read here in this definition that we are looking for gathering students' attention, their curiosity, their interest, their optimism, and their passion when we talk about engagement. So how can we bring in some of these ideas into our classroom to really raise that student engagement? And so this is the definition that helps us come up with and create and search out engagement strategies to share with you today. And just to kick us off, we're going to play a little bit of this or that. You might have heard this called lots of other things, but today we're going to do this or that. We're going to use thumbs up and thumbs down, which is a great hand signal to get engagement. And we're going to start off with coffee or tea. So coffee is thumbs up, tea is thumbs down. Be like this or that. Neutral also works. Are you a morning person or a night person? This or that. See lots of morning people. Thank you. And do you love dogs or cats? This or that? Which do you prefer? All right. Thank you for playing along with us. This is a great way to get to know your students, make some connections to content. These questions can be lesson, start off any meeting that you have with your students, and there's a lot more ideas on this slide right here. So if you want to click on that, it'll take you to some templates and ways to make connections with content. So take a look at that. The first strategy I'm going to share with you today is the strategy of snowball fight. This might not be a strategy that's new to you, but I might give that a new twist. This will engage students, allow for some movement around your classroom or outside, help you to assess learning in a fast and easy way. It can be differentiated and driven by students, as well as used for a quick review or sorting, can be connected to any content. Now, with any snowball fight, you need to set that stage first for your students to have success. Students often get very excited because it is an actual snowball fight, but with paper, so hopefully no one's going to get hurt. But make sure you set some parameters for your students as you know them best to make sure that everyone is safe and using it appropriately. The main idea of this is to take classroom paper, an actual paper that maybe students haven't used in a while. Use this paper. You can pre-write these if you would like, or even to raise that engagement for your students, have them write it. You can have vocabulary words on here. You can have mental math problems. You can have sight words or letters. Whatever skill your students are practicing, they're going to write it on paper, crumble it up, and have an actual snowball fight with paper in your classroom. Then your students will grab those papers or one paper that they have been hit with or see on the floor, open it up, read it, review it, maybe come up with the definition for the word or the word for the definition, answer a question, or even use this as community building as you start to get to know your students. So who is the person in our class who has 5 brothers? And now I have to make a connection with that person can also be a community builder. So the idea is to allow students to be active, use paper, read and write the ideas and questions and answers that are on this, and participate in a whole group activity. This can easily be connected to any content that you would like. So hopefully you can think about the snowball fight. There's also some resources there tagged in the comments for you if it's something that you might be interested in, to get some additional ideas for how to do this. It could also be a quick way to do some sorting. So if we have a whole bunch of words that everyone has done, or math problems, everyone with the answer of 5 come to this corner, and then check each other's work, have a conversation around the vocabulary word as you move to that corner, have an opportunity to collaborate and sort these ideas also that can be happening with your snowball fight. Hopefully that'll be fun for your students. The next strategy I'm going to give you is called FISHBOW. This is a great project-based learning strategy to really get your students collaborating and sharing ideas. It can be organized for your whole group or even smaller groups if you would like. The idea is that students are separated into an inside and an outside circle. The inside circle become your talkers. The outside circle are your observers as they listen to students problem solve or answer questions or have a discussion around something that they're learning. The outside group will take notes and start to think about what interests them, what needs more clarification, or what can they challenge with more information. As students lead this discussion, the teacher is the facilitator, just listening for what the students are talking about. The outside fishbowl is also just listening. The students on the inside are answering questions and having a discussion. Once a student has answered more than once, they can actually tag out and have somebody from the outside circle come in to add to that conversation and keep it going. I would suggest using timers to allow the conversation to be only 3 to 5 minutes so that it doesn't burn out, but allowing students to have an opportunity to share, discuss, problem solve together while others listen. The best part about this is now when we switch, the outside fishbowl becomes the inside fishbowl. And now we're going to share ideas of what we just heard. What did we learn from our peers who were inside that fishbowl as we were observing? What are those things that we are going to now clarify or bring attention to now that we're sitting inside? Setting up that structure for your students to be active listeners, possibly taking notes or jotting down ideas while the inside group is working. Some tips that are going to really help make this successful are to give students an opportunity to prepare ahead of time. Today, will you be an inside or outside the fishbowl? How will you know to tap in? What kind of process will that look like in your classroom if they have something that they would like to contribute? How do you tap in or tap out? What is the goal or expectation? Make sure that that is set ahead of time so that students know why they're sitting in the middle of this circle talking. Create a note taker possibly for your students to jot down those notes as they're listening. Make sure you mix up groups every time. And one of the fun strategies that I heard is today, are you a fish or are you a feeder? So the fish are on the inside and the feeders are on the outside. So they're going to get to add fish food, if you would. What are those tips and tricks? What are those things that you just learned? How will we keep that discussion going? So opportunities to vary this could be discussing a book or characters that you're reading about. Steps to solving a math problem if you have a bunch of students sitting in that circle sharing their strategies. You can use this as a community builder to get to know each other. You can share ideas about a topic in science or social studies and how it might connect to them personally or the world around them. Have students share an opportunity to be the teachers of the class, and maybe they're sharing a strategy that works for them around any content that you're learning. So hopefully Fishbowl is something to get your students leading the conversation, and you get to see whether or not they understand the content that you're teaching. And hopefully that's a quick strategy that you can add into any of your content tomorrow. I'm going to pass it off to Rachel with some more strategies for you.
Thank you. All right, so this strategy you've probably heard of before, this stop and jot strategy. This is typically used as a comprehension strategy with close reading, where students jot notes in the side of their books or on sticky notes. But I love this strategy because it allows processing time for all of your students. They get think time and everybody gets a chance to respond. So it doesn't have to be just with reading content. Depending on how you utilize this strategy, it can also be a great tool to check for understanding with your students. Especially if you have them use sticky notes or some other artifact that they can turn in, their little notes can become information and data for you to collect based on your lesson as well. And if you do close reading, and if you're familiar with Benchmark, you can tie these in as well and make your students awesome at the stop and jot strategy. So all you have to do to make this happen is plan intentional stopping points in your lessons to ask questions and give your students a chance to respond. Like I said, either on sticky notes, you could do it on Jamboard, they could have it on a whiteboard, lots of different ways. If you'd like to give it a try, I've linked it there on the slides for you on a Jamboard. And you can respond to some questions on there if you'd like and think about how you might use this with your students. I have an example of vocabulary on there as well as a math problem that you might have your students respond that way as well, so that everybody gets a chance to respond. And then again, if it's on sticky notes or something, you can look for commonalities in student answers and differences. You can group them and find different ways to talk about student answers there. And like I said, there's a lot of variations for this. Rather than having them use sticky notes, we've got the old whiteboard response where they stop and jot on that. They flip it up, everybody gets a chance to respond. And again, you can talk about different student ideas and how they're the same and different. You can have students work in small groups. So if you have younger students who maybe aren't the strongest writers yet, you can intentionally pair them and have one person become the writer for the group, or have them draw pictures instead of writing sentences. And this can also turn into how you create your anchor charts, taking those student ideas and putting them on a anchor chart for a larger class idea. I love it for number talks. As I mentioned, being able to see different student responses and how they came to their answer, putting it all in one visual place so that you can collectively learn together. As I mentioned, I made a Jamboard. You could also do this with Mentimeter or Pear Deck, some other digital tools that would work well for stop and jot. And then there's just some generic questions that you could use for really any content area to get your students thinking and responding to the material. So an oldie but a goodie. I love this strategy. It's so versatile for any content area. My next strategy, I will admit, is not our fastest strategy, depending on how much you want to do with this. It's the idea of classroom badges. You may have heard of this. It's more of a classroom management strategy that you can use to motivate students and also help them become a part of the learning process so that they're tracking their own academic achievements or behavior achievements. And it's a really creative way to make academic standards accessible for your students. You can start really small with this and make it fast if you'd like it to be, or you can go really in depth and do a lot with it to engage your students all year long. But I got a lot of these resources from Casey Bell's website. It's linked in the notes if you want to check it out. But I love this quote here because she talks about using gamification, which is this idea of badges, as an educational tool because it helps our students see that part of the learning system is failing and learning from our failures, just like they would in a video game. They get multiple lives in a video game where they go back in and try again. And it's the same way with learning. We don't just give up when we don't get something. We try again and use our multiple lives. Oops, and I just, sorry, clicked over on my tab. Here we go. This is what I was trying to get up. So again, like I said, this came from, sorry, my computer is so slow today, Casey Bell's website. So this is the idea of classroom badges and how you might use it to backwards plan for an assessment. So it's helping break down those standards for your students. You might come up with one really big learning goal, and then break it down into smaller, manageable achievements that they can earn a sticker for or a badge that you create that goes along with that, that helps them see the path towards their learning goal. And then as a class, everybody can earn a badge for mastering a concept or a behavior management piece. So that's if you want to go really, really in depth with it. But like I said, you can start small. Here's some sample badges. I created some. I've got a template there for you where all you have to do is change the titles. The Good Citizen and the Stamina Warrior are ones that I created on Google. You can just go in and edit the text there and make it say whatever you'd like. You'll also see I used my Bitmoji there a couple times. Those don't even have words on them. You could turn those into badges for your students as well. And if you're somebody who loves to spend time on this and wants to make it a larger system in your class, the bookworm and the math facts badges I created on Canva, I linked that for you as well. So you can just go in and edit those and download them for your class. So these are digital versions. You could easily make paper pencil versions, let your kids create badges and help them guide to celebrate those successes in their academic learning and help them understand the steps that they're taking towards larger goals. Like I said, and Helen, I saw your comment. I agree. It reminds me of those Girl Scout, Boy Scout badges, something that is so small, but our students find so powerful and they get excited about. And with that, I will pass it off to Abby.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abby Carlson. I'm one of the newest members of the TLN community, so I'm happy to be here with you. For my Fast and Fabulous strategies, I brought two. I brought two that I would never trade because they are fast, they are fabulous, and they are easy. So my question to you is, when you're about to give instructions or directions, how might you get your students' attention? I've heard teachers who do call and repeat, like class, class, yes, yes, call and repeat. Some teachers do hand signals. Some teachers use chimes. Or some teachers say, hey, listen up, everyone. So think about those strategies that you're using to get students' attention. This is the attention you want to get before you give instructions or directions. Next slide. So today's strategy, can you go ahead and change that one, Rachel? It's coming. Oh. Strategy number 5, it's called mindful mimicking. Mindful mimicking. This year, the district is focusing so hard on social emotional learning. This morning, I was in a training on mindfulness and the importance of mindfulness. And just to give a quick definition, it's paying attention intentionally to the present moment. So being really mindful of what am I thinking about right now. And then mimicking is to imitate closely. So this strategy uses them both together. Mindful mimicking is a great silent strategy for gathering student attention before delivering instructions or directions to the whole class. This also works digitally or in person. It works with kindergartners, and as I tried last Thursday, it also works with 7th graders. It does. So when it's time to deliver instructions, you're going to signal to your class through gestures that you're requesting attention. So if you see what I'm doing, if you could go ahead and mimic me. And just as I see other students are catching up, I'll change the gesture just a little bit. Now, what usually happens is students will notice that the gesture is changing. But what I'm asking them to do is leave your current activity and start intentionally focusing on one thing. Now, there's something about the differences of the gestures that I'm coming up with. They don't always make sense. But the students become curious with what is she going to do next. Now, I'm going to positively acknowledge, thank you, Rachel, for keeping up with my gestures. I'm going to positively acknowledge those that are doing it until I have about 90 to 100% of my class doing the gestures with me. And I'll keep it going silently for a few moments just to bring down that mindfulness. When I'm done gesturing, I just put my hands together and I talk about the objective of where we're headed next. On the next slide, there are some considerations to keep in mind. I make sure to always state the purpose again and again. I make sure my students can explain the purpose of why I'm mimicking, why they're mimicking me. Do they understand that you're about to give directions? Do they understand how this activity of mimicking can help them develop mindfulness? Those are things that I'm constantly repeating to the students. So I might say, Andrea, why are we mimicking Miss Carlson right now? Why are we doing that? Because you're about to give directions, Miss Carlson. Or I might say, Rachel, why are we mimicking me? Can you remind us? Because we're trying to get our thoughts focused on our next activity. So we're trying to get that mindfulness improving, but I'm also giving them kind of a silly way to transition their thinking. As we go down, it says, how might students employ this strategy for their own mindfulness? So we always want to teach students things that they can use on their own. So when they're maybe on their own without the whole class, can they do some gestures that will get their mind calm and ready to move on? My advice to you is to keep the gestures different. I will see sometimes if I use this hand signal, this alone, I will have students who have their hand up, but they're still talking or they're still focused on that other activity. So the same pattern of routine might mean students can participate without tracking your gesture. So we want to make sure whatever they're doing, they have to stop doing that in order to be successful. I also like to change my location around the room while I'm gesturing. So I will be walking around the room and going like this, like walking and chewing gum at the same time. You're trying to help students transition their thoughts to the next activity. So the novelty of your gestures that you use and the location will help them attend to you and be ready for the directions. The next strategy that I have, the last strategy for today, it's called a 4-quarter diamond. And you may have heard of this before, you may have used this before, but maybe there will be a little bit of novelty in here. So this strategy begins with folding a standard sheet of paper. So this could be as quick as, everyone take out a sheet of paper and hold it by your head. So everyone holds up a sheet of paper. It could be lined, it could be graphed, it could be written on the other side. So everyone's holding up a sheet of paper. Great. This strategy begins with folding a standard sheet of paper into quarters. Hot dog, hamburger, if you know, you know. So I'll start with my hot dog, then I'll go into my hamburger next so that I have 4 quarters. Okay, pretty easy, pretty easy. But while folded into corners, find the center of the paper. So the actual center of the paper, find the center of the paper and dog ear it. Now this can be as large or as small as you want it to be. So I should have a folded piece of paper with a dog ear. Then once you unfold it, you will have 4 quarter sections and a diamond in the middle. called the 4-quarter diamond. So when I teach students this at the beginning of the year, I keep saying 4-quarter diamond, 4-quarter diamond. And by the time they're really used to the strategy, I'll say, all right, take out a piece of paper, show me a 4-quarter diamond. Now let's talk about the applications for this. On the next slide, I will have students go ahead and make a 4-quarter diamond, and I'll even have them outline the diamond first, and then they draw these lines right next to it. We can use this for so many different purposes. One way is at the beginning of the year, if you want to know more about the student, you could say, write your name in the center diamond, then put a new fact about yourself in each quarter. You might also ask, who are 4 important people in your life? Just to get to know the student a little bit better, think of all the different questions you could ask students and collect this back and then get to know your students even better. When we know our students better, we can teach them better. For reading comprehension, write the title of the book, then think of 4 things students could write about the book. So many different ways to answer this. Math, we could write a target number, write 4 addition sentences that equal the target number. We could even get as easy as in the more section, 4 major cities of a state. So if we wrote New Mexico, what are 4 major cities of New Mexico? We could write mammals in the center, 4 different types of mammals, egg laying, aquatic, whatnot. So this, I love this strategy because it's simple. The students love the folding, and then they can fold it up, turn it into you, and you have a quick formative assessment. You have quick information that you can use, and the students love to engage with this paper and keep sharing their ideas. So that's my last fast and fabulous strategy.
Thanks, Abby. Well, as always, you know we love to hear from you. If you have strategies that work really well in your classroom, please send it via email or drop it in the chat. And our final little exit ticket strategy with you today. We'd love to hear which, you can choose any of these. If we had a dice in the classroom, you could have your students roll and that's how they respond. But just let us know today, name something new you learned, a good idea you heard, something that may push you out of your comfort zone, acknowledge somebody for a job well done, describe a feeling you experienced today, or how you will apply your learning. So please send that to us in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking today. And remember that our presentation always grows. You'll see that on the next slide. I want to give you a moment to read these, however. And we will, this is a new slide deck for this new year. So save that link and we'll add strategies as the month goes on. But thank you so much for being here. And we hope to see you later this month for our next strategies. I'm glad to hear Helen